With Premier Elect Bushy Maape has been sworn in as member of the provincial legislature, replacing the former Premier Chauke, who resigned as the Premier and member of the provincial legislature. For more on this, I'm joined now by the Northwest Interim Provincial Committee Coordinator, Hlomane Chauke, as well as Political Analyst Levy Ndou. Gentlemen, good evening. Good to have you with us tonight on In Focus. Chauke, let's start with you. Members of the media have expressed some concern and unhappiness around being left out of the process, in fact denied access following an instruction that they believe was from the Speaker, Susan Chauke. Can you explain what led to that decision?
Well, look, let me firstly greet the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. It has been beyond our control. I think you'll know that the party and the legislature, they are two separate, two distinct, because the Speaker and the rules of that legislature govern at that level. And for us, it has been a concern too, because the Speaker issued out a notice that they invited the members of the media. And then when members of the media were there, they were not given the opportunity, in fact, to do what they're supposed to do. They did raise concern with us. We did, in fact, engage with the Speaker, and were told that in terms of the rules of that legislature, media would not be allowed in the inside when the ceremony was taking place of the swearing in of a member. So it was just beyond our control now, but we take note of that because it was raised quite very sharply by members of the media, which we agree with them at the level of the party, obviously, because the ANC position on free media without any hindrance. And I think we all know the position of the ANC around that particular area, that we must never interfere or disrupt the work that is done by journalists at that level. But the concern has been communicated to the Speaker of the legislature. Then they will issue a statement on behalf of the legislature and then explain themselves as to what really happened there.
Now, many may say that this, in a sense, also continues to paint this picture that the process that paved the way for Bushy Maape to come on as the Premier designate was not a smooth one, and those tensions that existed then are still pretty much there. I mean, can you give us a sense as the Interim Provincial Committee that you are stabilizing that situation and those tensions or those factional battles are being brought under control?
Well, look, we cannot use the issue of the media that was denied access to that process. From the side of the party, we've made sure that we follow the transcript of the law to the letter to make sure that you'll recall that Comrade Bush was not a member of the legislature. So the party had to rearrange the list to allow Comrade Bush to come in so that he's now gazetted as a member, in fact, in the list of the party before he became a member of the legislature. So the swearing-in ceremony is just a normal thing that is driven by the Constitution, and the requirements are very clear there. It got nothing to do with party battles or whatever. It got to do with making sure that we follow the transcript of the law to the letter. And I think this is what we have done. And I think that's what we are at the level of the party. We're satisfied that all requirements, we have met them, we have interacted with the IC, we have interacted with the Secretary of the Legislature to make sure that the party list is properly amended. It has taken us some time because the process of gazetting and having to realign the list itself has taken almost a week. We're fine with that, and we're happy that the next round will be for Comrade Bush now to appear in the legislature. The swearing-in did happen, and Comrade Bush has now taken an oath in front of the Speaker. He is now a full member of the legislature where we are, and we are happy about that process.
Now, Levy, it was, of course, expected that we would be talking now about the plans and the processes outlined by the ANC to at least map out its vision following this confirmation of Bushy Maape's membership to the provincial legislature. Instead, we are now covering the events in silence, almost being left out of that particular announcement. Any surprises for you in that development?
Well, good evening, Thabo. Good evening, Mr. Hlomane. Good evening to the viewers at home. The political developments in the Northwest Province has always drawn a lot of attention and indeed media attention. And big or small, the events that might take place in that province always have an interest, and it is informed by, of course, the continuous change of leadership in the province, which are also deep-rooted in the factional battles happening within the ANC in general. And if there are rules that will prevent the media from capturing very important events of the legislature, it should be a concern not only from the media, it should be a concern that one would expect the ANC to deal with. The reason being that when the ANC was fighting for freedom in South Africa, the ANC was suppressed as a party, the media to a greater extent was censored, and people were not allowed to vote. And when the ANC came into power, some of the rights that are quite fundamental, that are supposed to be respected, were actually brought into the fore by the ANC. And one would always expect that the ANC-led government at all levels should actually be on the forefront of ensuring that the rights are actually being afforded to the citizens. The media in South Africa has, on numerous occasions, played a significant role in informing the public about what is actually happening everywhere. And one wouldn't have expected a situation where the media will still be frustrated, especially having to cover public events, because the government is a public entity, and the media is there to actually ensure that people get the information that is required. The Northwest, if one has to emphasize, based on its dynamics, would actually have sufficient attraction, and maybe those that are responsible for making these kind of rules would actually amend them in the interest of media freedom.
Yeah, certainly. Then let's, Hlomane, talk about this latest issue now that I see being reported, that the National Disciplinary Committee of the ANC has ruled that the 5-year suspension of Supra Mahumapelo was not properly ventilated at provincial level. In a nutshell, interest of justice was not taken into account, and they've ordered that particular process to start afresh. I mean, this, of course, adding to those questions of whether or not the Interim Provincial Committee is acting consistently and fairly when it deals with these matters.
Well, look, on that matter, I think it's only now late we're informed that the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals has referred the matter back to the province. You'll recall that when this matter started, in terms of the ANC Constitution, generally members have a right to appeal to the higher structure, which they have done that. Both Comrade Pizza and Comrade Supram appeal. And the appeals committee gave ANC Provincial Disciplinary Committee 15 days to resolve or to respond to the issues as raised. In terms of the ANC Constitution, and the appeal process stipulates that within a period of 6 months, the appeal must be heard, right? Within a period of 6 months. This time around, we're given 15 days to respond before even the transcripts that were transferred into proper, the audit was transferred into proper transcript and all of that. But nonetheless, it's water under the bridge. These matters were ventilated by the Provincial Disciplinary Committee when it met with the National Appeals Committee dealing with these matters. This matter is not thrown away. The matter still stands. The province will continue with the work that it has started. On areas where there are gaps, the province is going to continue doing that, cover that space. They were then given another 15 days again which again, in terms of the ANC constitution, it was just beyond that, because ANC constitution prescribed a period of dealing with an appeal, right? So I don't want to create a situation now here in this platform to want to raise issues that we have raised with the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals on where we are not satisfied ourselves in the manner that the ANC constitution was never understood at some point. But it's an internal process. The matter has been referred to the province. We are dealing with it. And as far as we know, the charges still remain. The charges have not been thrown away. The charges still remain. The party position of suspension still remains. What is going to be dealt with is what the verdict came of the Provincial Disciplinary Committee, is what they're going to be dealing with moving forward. So we don't have a problem. There's no crisis. And I think it's within the right of members and the right of the appeals body up there to have referred the matter back again to the province. We'll continue engaging on these matters and we'll definitely find the solution on this matter, because clearly matters of discipline are very complex and we just have to work within the constitution, because we are guided by the constitution of the day. There are no shortcuts, neither pressure that will have to come in and say that you must finish this within 15 days. And it's not there. Right. The constitution is very clear. When they put 6 months, it's because they understand the complex nature in which you deal with matters of appeals and all of that. Documents had to be ready, charges had to be properly prepared, witnesses had to appear proper if they had enough time to prepare themselves to appear before the appeals committee and all of that. So those processes are guided by clearly guidelines that are within the constitution, and we are fine. The matter is back in the province. We are dealing with it in the province. Within a period of time, we'll pronounce our position again on these matters.
All right, to avoid misunderstanding, let me take a break because I want to come back and just clear out some of those issues that you are raising, then give Levy an opportunity to respond to that as well. Right, live back with you tonight on In Focus, Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405. Thanks for staying on. ANC Northwest Interim Provincial Committee Coordinator Hlomane Chauke and Political Analyst Levy Ndou. Before the break, Hlomane Chauke outlining the process that has led now to this matter, particularly being taken back to province to deal with it properly. Now, you raised the issue of 15 days. Have you now been given as a province the entire 6 months that you're saying you need to be able to carry out this process? And is that how you're going to carry out the process now?
No, exactly. It's in terms of the constitution of the ANC. I mean, there's no one that is above the constitution, even pronouncement. Even if you had to give timelines as to when you must finish the case, it must be within that period as stipulated in the constitution of the ANC. So we are still within that 6 months. I mean, in fact, we still have about 3 months or 4 months to go on this matter. So there's no hurry. The reality is that the matter has been dealt with at the provincial level. And then the sooner the provincial DC finishes with this work, and then we'll continue with that process until the last.
And you're still convinced that those charges that you want to raise will still stand? Suprema Humapulu has said this is nothing but a witch hunt, and he's prepared to challenge this particular process.
Well, the charges as they are put are not the contest where we are. Maybe there's been a process which I think, again, both national find that it was really uncalled for to give a province 15 days to prepare documentation of the DC that has taken place, with piles and piles of documents and transcripts that need to be done in time within a period of 6 months. We're given 15 days to do that. And I think it was really uncalled for. But nonetheless, we are satisfied and we are happy about the charges. Yeah. We know that they will respect the DC process, because we believe that this was a transgression that needed to be referred to DC, and DC will pronounce. So I'll not want to dwell much around that, even including what are the charges. But nonetheless, we are dealing with these matters at that level of the province. The disciplinary committee is handling them. And I'm happy that the engagement that took place between the provincial DC and the national structure of appeals, in fact, they came to this conclusion that we must continue engaging and accepting the 6 months that we are still within that period.
Now, Levy, of course, Suprema Humapulu, having successfully at least managed to overturn that particular decision this time around, surely he must be feeling a little bit more vindicated in this matter, although he's not entirely off the hook.
No, look, you know what? I would not. It's a matter that I would not even call for anyone to celebrate it. if there's an internal process that we still have to engage on, what we expect to see is the full cooperation of those that are found to be wanting when it comes to matters of discipline. We expect them to cooperate. The provincial structure is there to deal with these matters. And I want to make this appeal to all of them to cooperate with the provincial structure when they are called upon to appear, and not to rush to national and think that national will then save them. The province is here to deal with these matters, and they must subject themselves and appear.
Levy?
Yeah, indeed. I think my observation is that
internal process, let's deal with this process, and once you have concluded...
No, Hlomane, I just want to give Levy an opportunity to just weigh in there. Go ahead, Levy.
Okay.
Well, I think the matter for me has gone back to square one. And if you look at the political life, you have a situation where in a political organization, there's a constitution, there are rules and regulations that are supposed to be followed, and obviously there's a framework that has to be followed when certain things have to happen. And what I see now is the NEC saying, you haven't done enough to deal with this matter, but you're actually exerting some form of pressure on the provincial leadership to say you need to act on this given this particular time frame. And what you get then from the provincial legislature is that, no, you are not actually providing the proper interpretation of the rules and regulations. What we know is that we've got 6 months. And the possibility is that some might still argue otherwise, and the other body also argues, and it will end up prolonging the entire exercise. But in my view, you would get instances where there is always an argument within the party based on the constitution, based on conference resolutions, and some other issues. And I think that is one other area where the ruling party is supposed to sit down and eye these kind of differences, because there are a number of some that I'm not going to mention, wherein you'll get the entire organization being bogged down onto the modalities and some few details about decisions that have been taken instead of implementing them. And that has got a potential to frustrate especially those that are directly involved, or the ordinary people that are actually observing from a distance. One would expect that the ANC members and or any other members of political parties should always remember the rules and regulations in the party and provide sufficient cooperation when they're actually required to do so. And indeed, there are instances where you don't get some of the members behaving in that manner, which has got serious negative implications on the party in general.
Dr. Hlomane, I'm going to let you go in a moment, but just final question. Talking of those rules and regulations, it was a contested issue previously, whether or not Super Mahumapelo should be addressing branches and so on and so forth. Well, now he remains essentially a member of the ANC. That membership has not been suspended. In terms of rules and regulations, does he address gatherings?
Look, let me not comment on that point now. Allow me to engage further with the report that will come from the provincial DC, because we have now subjected the very same verdict that came out to a process at the province. And once that is concluded and finalized and cleared, we will definitely speak further on this matter. But the reality of yours is what I'm happy that my brother has raised this point, that it's important for people to subject themselves to structures where they are called upon, because one of the biggest challenges that we have is for people to undermine the provincial structure and believe that because they are bigger than anyone else, they will then go to national and national will listen to them and everything will be thrown away. In the space where we are, that will never work. All of us are equal. The constitution of the party is the supreme constitution that guides all of us, and no one, either at the national level or any individual who's charged who may want to run the constitution for their own favor. That constitution was crafted clearly, and in it, it's very clear that there are time stipulated, the guidelines that deals with these matters, there are rules that deals with matters of DC, and all of that had to be adhered to. And the provincial disciplinary committee in the province is arbitrary. And once the member is found guilty, the member has the right to appeal national, and national understand very well that these matters of appeals have a time frame that had to be dealt with, right? I don't want to get to that level. That's why I'm saying that some of these things, I do not want to ventilate them because they are party internal matters. I will take them up at the level of the party and deal with them. But in the public space where we are, our simple say is that we are attending to this matter. We will communicate clearly what is our understanding on this information that comes from national. Right. And we'll come back and share with the public our view on that part.
To the people then of the Northwest Province, Bushy Maape has now been sworn in as a member of the provincial legislation and essentially the Premier Elect of the province. Should they now expect stability and service delivery?
That's the biggest worry that we have, by the way, across the province. I think you all know that the state of government that is under Section 100, municipalities that most of them have collapsed, cannot provide services. And the IPC, when it was established on the basis of trying to stabilize these areas. We came out, we said, in the following municipalities, we need to intervene. The mayors, the speakers, they failed to give leadership. And there's been resistance, I think we all know. The latest that we know now is that even the Department of Cocta has now identified a number of municipalities that need serious intervention. And in all of those that national department has identified them, is those that we have identified them before. And we'll continue doing that because our interest for the work that we are doing here is to make sure that we implement what the ANC has promised the people of the Northwest, that will provide jobs, water, housing, young people who are loitering the streets, smoking nyaupe there. We need to intervene. Service delivery is lacking in the province. And we believe that the broom that will come in, Comrade Bushy can bring it different, working together with administrators that are deployed in the province. Because at some point, we then find that the relationship between administrators and government was very poor at the level of provincial government, right? And because these people are just sent there to come and intervene and help where government has collapsed. At the time when, there was a regular expenditure of 4 billion rand in the fifth administration, it skyrocketed almost 18 billion rand, where there was just total collapse of government, right? And we cannot sit back and celebrate that. Our role is to make sure that we stand up, we defend the public purse, we use the public purse money to change the lives of our people. And here, when we deal with this matter, it's got nothing to do with what you'll call your factional groups or what. Here, it's about the lives of our people. It's a commitment that the ANC has made to the people of the Northwest that we are going to provide with the services. Any faction that I can engage with is a faction that says that how best we can provide water to our people, how best we can create jobs to our young people. All of these other ones who are just there just to claim power and whatever, it's none of our business. Our business is to make sure that we implement the ANC manifesto to deliver, to better the lives of our people. That's the business that we're involved in. The rest of these other factions that, people will always say that, this fact, well, I'm not interested with that. Right. Our interest, it's about our people. And anyone that speaks about our people, we listen to. But anyone that comes and talk about power, how best they can be in power better than others, that's not our business. Our business is to make sure that those people there in Tatakanyang, where there's no water for the last 3 months, are provided with water. So that's what the ANC is working.
I appreciate your time. Let's leave it there for tonight. Thank you for coming through. Levy, thank you very much for coming through. ANC's Northwest Interim Provincial Committee Coordinator, Hlomane Chauke, and Political Analyst Levy Ndou.